If one of your biggest concerns about using AI is that you don't know where the information is coming from, that's a valid concern. Today on the show, an expert is going to introduce us to a new tool that some say is going to take over for Google. Expert Connections starts now. We talk a lot about ChatGPT on this show, but it's not the only tool, far from the only tool that uses AI technology to help you. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton Smith. Let's get right to our expert today, talking about AI connections. Foster AI partners with small businesses, executives, and individuals to harness the power of AI in a uniquely human way. Our expert today is the founder of Foster AI, Scott Remington. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Julie, as always.
Glad to have you back, Scott. And I'm excited to dive into this topic because we do talk a lot about ChatGPT, especially the paid version, now ChatGPT 4.0. But today you're going to talk about something different. And more than talk, you're going to show us a demo. So, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, very excited to be demoing two things today. First is our Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Claude is from Anthropic, and they released this new version, and it's just mind-blowing, some of the things you can do. Really looking forward to showing some of the power behind it, like creating presentations. It's a fantastic tool, very comparable to ChatGPT in terms of its LLM output, but it really showcases the ability of some coding and even some developing on some cool, neat projects. And then we'll also show Perplexity, which is a AI type of tool that is comparable to Google, but in a very personalized way. So I'm very excited to show that. And I think a lot of people are going to be using Perplexity more often when they can see the difference between a Google search and a Perplexity search. So really, really happy to be here and show the tools off today.
I'm excited to dive right in. Let's start with Perplexity because I think most of us in the business world have thought that no one would ever out Google. And now AI is opening up a whole different world of opportunity. So tell us about Perplexity. What is
Yeah.
Perplexity used for?
Absolutely. So Perplexity is used a lot for, it started out kind of, being used for research. It is a fantastic way to get a lot of background on anything. So for example, right, if you're doing a research paper, right, you can't just get, one or two sources. You need to have four or five. So what Perplexity does is it searches the internet, and it will actually give you the sources cited. That was a controversy when ChatGPT first came out, that there's all this fantastic information, but where is it coming from, right? Perplexity does just that. Not only does it give you the sources, but it does so in a personalized way. And so instead of just talking about it, I would love to show you how it works in real time. So I want to take a personal example here. So first, I will go ahead and share the screen. And a lot of you probably read about this AT&T breach, right? A lot of phone numbers, people shown that, their phone records and text messages were leaked, right? And so I wanted to learn more about this, right? So I did a Google search and, I got some information, but with Perplexity, I want to show you what this looks like and we'll do a comparison of the both. And again, we don't have to be super, technical on these searches. Again, these are built off of kind of that natural language processing, which is really nice. So I heard about an AT&T breach. Can you tell me more about this, please? Right? I'm not even giving it that much information. We're going to see what it comes up with. Okay. So right off the bat, you're starting to see, our sources being cited here. It talks about the different types of breaches that occurred, right? So we had one in March, one in April, and we noticed that the newest one isn't in there, right? Because we're getting everything at once. But so I want to ask a follow-up, which is really nice, and kind of that difference between a Google and a Perplexity is you can ask follow-up questions to the actual chat itself, which is super nice. So let's say that that actually didn't get the breach that I was looking for. Can you talk about the most recent AT&T breach, please?
How nice. I mean, how often do you have a Google search and maybe it was what you initially searched that didn't result in the answers you were looking for,
Right?
or maybe, for whatever reason it just didn't show up and you can't ask Google again off of
Exactly.
that search. Like based on what you already found, here's the follow-up. So this already is
Exactly.
wonderful, Scott.
And so you can see, right? I apologize for the confusion. You're right. That I'll provide the most recent information. And then it goes into, July 24th, and you can see, all the different numbers here with the different sources that it's citing. So it has some CNN articles. If you would like it to get more, more sources, you can ask it for more sources. So in our first, if we scroll up, we can see here we have the different sources being used for these articles, so you can get it from a variety of different things, which is super nice. So, when you're searching in your day to day, right, and you want to Google something, maybe think about perplexing it, um, and see the difference in the results. So now let's just take this, right, and go to Google, right, just so we can see in real time kind of what the difference looks like. So we'll go off of our Perplexity site. We'll go to Google and we'll just say, I'll even do the same thing. Can you tell me about the latest AT&T data breach? All right. So we'll just ask it. So you can see a lot different, right? Um, not as many, not as much information. When I said latest, right, it didn't come up. This is, March. It's actually using AT&T as its news source. So again, you can see the difference. And obviously, we talk to Google different than we do to AT&T, but you can kind of see here the difference in the two sources, right? It doesn't give you that personalized response that a Perplexity does, which is really nice.
And no ability to ask follow-up questions. Scott, one thing I also noticed immediately here, okay, so we have Google snippets. People also ask, which I don't know if you've ever gone down that rabbit hole where you just like, it has nothing to do with what your initial question was, but now you're wondering what about this answer? It also has the videos and you can switch, of course, to images and media news. I noticed that in Perplexity, you had that ability as well. So I wonder too,
Absolutely.
how much of this is just our comfort level and what we're used to using versus learning a new platform? Have you found Perplexity to be easy to pick up and easy to use?
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to show you all a demo today, kind of just how simple it is to use. Again, like all of these AI tools, we really need to think about, what drives these, right? And that's the NLP, the natural language processing, right? That's just everyday basic communication. So those that are good just talking conversation can be able to use and transfer those skills into all of these different AI tools, right? Which is why I love using Perplexity and ChatGPT and Claude and all of the other LLMs because all it really requires is that for you to be a good communicator, right? And that's a big difference from the past of having to learn, some Google Boolean logic, right? Or, when do I use parentheses and when do I, use quotes here, right? To get specific search results. You're actually talking to something and it is being programmed to give it back in the language that you'd like to understand.
So no, Scott, one more question about Perplexity before we move on.
Yeah.
How do you personally decide when you're going to use Perplexity versus maybe ChatGPT?
It's a great question. So I think so for Perplexity, if it's something I'm interested in a much more deeper search results, so like a news story or something I'd like to get different point of views. Believe it or not, it's fantastic for political because it does have different viewpoints on things. So if you were just interested just in general on a topic, there was a topic this morning about a potential AI executive order that might be coming from a different administration if they're elected, and it talked about how this isn't official yet, but here's what we know so far, right? Very kind of objective, and that was super nice to see, that it didn't feel like there was any bias while it was talking, which was really nice.
And certainly the cited sources make that easier for you to also discern where the information
Exactly.
is coming from.
Exactly. So let's now say, Julie, that we want to take this, right? Let's say that I'm doing a presentation about AT&T, right? Or about, the people that are interested in learning, or I'm doing a talk. So we're going to take this information and then we're actually going to put it into Claude itself. And we're going to see what that does, which is really, really nice. So I'm literally going to copy this and see if I can't do this easily. One thing too to note is if you ever want to share a Perplexity result, which is really nice, you can do that, and your entire chain will go to somebody. So if you were say, hey, usually you might share like an X or a Google search, whatnot, or an article, you can actually share a Perplexity article. Just kind of a fun side note there to your friends or family. So let's just say I want to, do this present on this, to a group that I'm talking to. So I'm going to go into Claude and I want to start a new chat here. And I'm going to make sure that we take all of this wonderful stuff off. And we're just going to say, good morning, Scott. How can I help you today? Right. So I'm going to copy and paste the information. And I'm going to say, let me get this right. I'm going to say, I want to create a slide PowerPoint presentation on the below. Please create a professional and colorful slide for me. All right, see what it comes up with here. So what's really cool is this, it's going to do is use a technology called React, and you're basically going to be having Claude, this is called an artifact, create something for you in real time, right? And how cool is that? We just made this slide within what, 15 seconds? And you can really see things a lot easier, right? So if I'm doing a presentation and I want some data pretty quickly to be put into almost an infographic form, what a great way to do it through Claude's 3.5 artifacts.
Wow. Okay. So Claude is brand new to me. I admit I've never used this tool before. Tell us about this slide that it created. How would you then go about using it? Is it in a format that can be put into PowerPoint or
It's a
forgive my novice
Yeah,
here, but like many of our viewers, this is new. So what do you
yeah.
do next?
Absolutely. So there's two ways to do this, right? So one is kind of the easier way, which I like to do, or two is kind of the complicated way. Why don't we start with the easy way, right?
Okay, that sounds good. I like
So
easy.
so this is built, and I'll show kind of everyone kind of what this is built on. This is built on kind of like a React type of language, right? That's kind of more sophisticated. So if you have, a computer programmer that wants to edit within this, you can download this and it gets into the React file format and you have to go, be a little more advanced, right? But for those of us that might not want to do that, right? We can actually just copy and paste this as a photo and then blow it up. And then like a Google or PowerPoint will be able to help us design it, right? Which is really nice. Now, let's say that we don't like the color scheme here. Let's say, this isn't, this is nice, but I want something more professional, more futuristic, right? So let's say, please make this look a little more futuristic and cool, for lack of a better phrase. Be sure you have the right components. And this is just in case um, it tries to use a component from React that it doesn't have, meaning like a color scheme or whatnot. So again, it's going to go through and it's going to make us hopefully a cool looking slide. One then we can take and copy and paste into our PowerPoint or Google Slides or even Canva, right? So again, looks kind of cool. You have kind of that red up here. We can go back and forth now to tell it, hey, like this is kind of hard to see. Like I don't, can't really see this well. But the point is that we are going back and, prompt engineering, right, in order to get a nice slide. And there's so many different use cases that Claude can be used for. This is just one of them, right? You can program, little games, right? I've seen everything from almost like a Tetris remake to I think it was like called the Slappy Bird or whatever that thing was back in the day, right? And
Oh
it's
yeah,
really
Angry
real
Birds,
Angry
right?
Bird. Yeah,
Angry
yep, yep.
Bird.
Yep. So yeah, so again, a lot of use cases for Claude Anthropic. Think of it like a Chat GPT with a lot more capability, which is really, really cool to use.
And really, even as you were describing earlier, when you're in that research phase, oftentimes we have a lot of information that we're trying to pare down into a really concise format. So even just to be able to see what Claude chose to pull out of that
Right.
information you gave it and how to design it in a way where now it's a little more digestible for someone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what we like to use these tools for, right? Is to make these things more digestible. We want them to be sure that, we get some time back, right? I mean, how long would that slide taken you on a Canva or a PowerPoint, right? I mean, other than if we can go back and keep, prompt engineering to make sure it looks better, but once we're there, it's kind of good to go, right? And so, when we're talking about these tools, right, this is just another way, to take a lot of information, digest it very quickly, and then present it in a, nice way. And one of the really cool things is, they've now, I'm sure you can see this little button here, publish, right? So if I publish this and I shared a link with you, you will be able to see kind of the finalized format of this presentation or whatever I've created within Claude. And if you think about all the different use cases within this, whether you are making simple games or even presentable dashboards, right? Say you have a document of 50 to 100 pages, like an annual report, and you want to create a dashboard, you can absolutely do that, right? So we'd upload a PDF and you can say, hey, can you give me an infographic or an interactive dashboard for this report? Share it with a team. You're on a Zoom call and there you go, right? I mean, talking, hours saved on these type of tools.
My content creator brain is swirling with now taking, as you were talking earlier, being able to share that Perplexity information that you discovered. You can click to share that, and now you can actually also share it with a slide on X if that's something that you're really wanting to draw attention to. Scott, what a great way to quickly be able to perform the research through Perplexity and use Claude to create slides. I would love to hear from our viewers how they are using Perplexity and Claude. Are there use cases you have found particularly helpful? Are there challenges or things that you're encountering that you really want to share some tips with our audience? Let us know. Send us a message, drop a note right here on this YouTube video, and we would love to hear from you. Scott, I'm also interested. I'm going to dive into Claude. I'm going to see more of how this works. This looks fantastic. I recently started using a few times an application called Beautiful.ai to create more full-scale presentations. So like a full slideshow. I actually used it. I was doing a small talk one day on AI. And I thought, well, why don't I just throw my notes into this and have it create that presentation for me? There were some hiccups along the way, but I always love seeing what these programs are coming up with. So many to choose from. So also from our viewers, let us know, what else are you using? What tools outside of the ChatGPT toolbox do you think would be helpful for other business owners? Scott Remington of Foster AI, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Julie.
And Scott, we will link to your information below. Foster AI, an amazing AI consultancy headquartered in Lansing, Michigan, really offering some incredible AI consulting for a lot of small businesses and executives in our region. Scott also travels, so reach out to him if you have questions, and we will see you in the next video.